ولا تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
The terminology. Now, it is also important that we acknowledge the ruling of i'tikaf. What is, is it faraz? Is it wajib? Is it sunnat? Is it nafil? So the ruling for i'tikaf, the sunnat i'tikaf we are talking about in the last 10 days of Ramadan, is that it is sunnat mu'akkada al kifaya, meaning it is an emphasized sunnah. An emphasized sunnah, and it is the duty of the whole community to fulfill this sunnah. Meaning what I mean by that is that if no one from the whole community sits in i'tikaf, then the whole community will be sinful. However, if one or two people from the community they sit in i'tikaf, then they will be fulfilling this duty on behalf of the whole community, and they will prevent the whole community from becoming sinful. Another thing to acknowledge is that, is it allowed for women to do i'tikaf or not? So the answer to that is they are allowed to do i'tikaf in their homes, with the condition that they first get permission from their husband. So if their husband gives them permission, then they can sit in i'tikaf. Where will they sit for i'tikaf in their homes? Then the answer to that is they will sit in that area which usually they perform the 5 times prayer, which is basically their reserved room for prayers. However, if there is no area which they have specified for performing their 5-time prayers, then it is up to them. They can perform i'tikaf in any room they like. They will specify that room, and then once i'tikaf starts, they will not leave that room without any legitimate excuse. Another question, can a woman leave the room if there is no one to prepare food for her, if there is no one to cook food for her? So the answer to that is yes, she can leave her room if there is no one to prepare food for her. Can she leave the room if someone has prepared the food but there is no one at the time she wants the food to bring the food to her? So the answer to that is again yes, so she can leave her place to go get the food. However, if there was someone to prepare the food, so then she can't go to the kitchen and help make the food. If there was someone there to bring the food to her, then she cannot leave her specified room to go get the food. Another question that is asked is, can the husband come into the room that has been specified for i'tikaf? So the answer to that is yes. Her husband can come into the room, he can spend some time with her, he can talk to her, and we find in the hadith the opposite way, where the Prophet ﷺ was in i'tikaf and his wife Hazrat Safiya radiallahu anha came to see him. So even the opposite way is allowed also. However, when the husband does come to see his wife, then he should restrain and he should stay away from anything which could lead to sexual intercourse, because having sexual intercourse whilst in sunnah i'tikaf will invalidate the sunnah i'tikaf. So therefore you should stay away from things like this. Another question that people ask regarding the i'tikaf for women is, if they had a rough idea, or if they knew that during these last 10 days their menstrual period would occur, then what should they do? Can they sit in i'tikaf or not? So the answer to that question is they should, well, first we should acknowledge that amongst the conditions of the sunnat i'tikaf being valid, one condition is fasting. So when a woman is in her menstrual period, she is not allowed to fast. So therefore she will not be able to do sunnat i'tikaf. So what should she do? She should obviously calculate from beforehand. If she knows that her i'tikaf, that her period is going to occur during these 10 days, then she should not make intention for sunnat i'tikaf, because fasting is a condition. Yes, she can perform nafil i'tikaf, because for nafil i'tikaf fasting is not required. And another question is that, for example, she didn't know the masla and she then made intention for sunnat i'tikaf, and then during the 10 days at some point her period started. What should she do in this scenario? So the answer to that is, as soon as her period occurs, then her fast will break, and also her sunnah i'tikaf will break. Like we have said, and I will repeat again, that fasting is a requirement for sunnah i'tikaf. So her sunnah i'tikaf will become invalidated. Now what should she do? She will have to make qada, she will have to make up one day, only one day's worth of i'tikaf. So for example, during these last 10 days, for example, 2 days later, on the 22nd of Ramadan, her period occurred, and there were still roughly 8 days left till Eid. Even though there were 8 days left, she will only make qada of one day. And for example, her period occurred on the 27th, so there was only 2-3 days left. In that scenario as well, she will only make qaza of one day. When can she make this qaza? How should she make this qaza? So the answer to that is that, for example, if she becomes pure again in Ramadan, so example, her period occurred on the 21st, 22nd, and a few days later, before Ramadan finished, she became pure again, then can she make the qada of the i'tikaf? Then the answer is yes, she can make qada in those days as well. And if she becomes pure later, or if she doesn't want to do the qada during those days,